How's it going with the latest episode?
I'm really late on it. I feel bad for my producer and the guy who mixes it because I just sent everything in and it has to go up tomorrow.
Oh boy.
There were a lot of sound cues and stuff like that. Yeah,
So they'll be working late into the night on it.
I
Nothing.
guess so. Uh, I get to go to bed. Hopefully, they're left with the mess.
Um, so you dropped the first three episodes at one time, right? At the beginning,
Yeah,
and now you're going to be doing episodes however often you're doing.
yeah, every Tuesday for the rest of the season.
Okay. And how
Yeah.
long is the season?
We have like 13 episodes. It might go up to 15 or 16 if I decide to squeeze in a few more. But it follows a sort of linear story about where I've been for the past 2 or 3 years, my journey with addiction, relapse, falling in love, falling out of love, bottoming out sexually, and it just sort of goes in a straight line for like the duration of the season. So there's sort of like a theme throughout the season. So that's why we keep it kind of concise. That and just laziness, I guess.
Well, from what I can gather, I mean, and we're just sliding right into it, right?
Yeah,
Because
sure.
I didn't say let's start now, but the theme being it sounds like from the three episodes the first three episodes, which I could listen to, were dealing with this particular film um, that you and Betsy were in together,
Yeah.
and because Peter Wright directed it,
Uh-huh.
and it's called Assholes,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean that seems to be, though you have an episode also with your sister. So maybe the theme, I don't know, maybe it's just kind of like about this particular period of time. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that maybe was a little it might be a little misleading because it's the first one is about my sister and our messed up relationship, and then it goes into sort of one-two punch Betsy Brown and Peter Vack, who both worked with me on the movie Assholes, and we kind of get into what a kind of crazy situation that was, and
Right.
you
Yeah.
know
The shot.
the shot, the shot of my ding dong. Yeah. So
Yeah.
there was a shot I was a little uncomfortable. I agreed to all full frontal nudity in these simulated sex scenes with Betsy, who, Betsy was his sister and his whole family was on set. So there was a lot of like,
Yeah.
it was an interesting time. But yeah, there was one shot that I didn't feel quite comfortable with. And as a man, you feel embarrassed being like, oh, I gave in to someone else's desire for me to expose myself in this way. Like we mostly associate that with, people, girls on set, women on set maybe experience these kind of things. But, and I don't want to condemn Peter or anything. It was a miscommunication. It was, not super kosher. And I've resented him throughout the years, but now I think I've come to a different place, a different place of understanding and thinking about my role and all that. But yeah, we get into that in the Betsy episode and the Peter episode. And in in the Betsy episode, we talk more about what a jerk I was on the film that followed Assholes in my life, my feature film that still has not been finished, like almost a decade later.
Right. But let's get back to the shot because it was
Can I say real quick? Sorry to cut you off. That the rest of the show isn't about assholes. That was just those two couple episodes, and it moves past
yeah,
that.
right. But it kind of is about this period of time, you know. It's well, it's a little. I think what'll emerge is something. Things will emerge over the course of the season. I think where you can look back and say this is kind of where, what this whole kind of arc of these episodes is about. It's hard to kind of do it. It seems like you're kind of things more and more is rather coming out, and we're learning more about you and your challenges, your difficulties, your basic personality. Kind of kidding, but with Peter, I mean, my reaction, if you want it,
Sure.
is like it was odd because I don't have obviously a nuanced idea of your relationship with this guy. I know Peter a little bit. He actually did this podcast years and years ago, but it seemed like he was really authentically present and open, and he really being considerate. Again, this is the edit. I don't know what he's like outside of that. I don't know what your relationship is. I can only tell from what my experience of listening to the episode. And he seemed really like regretful that while you did agree to do nudity in the film, full frontal, etc., you didn't really ever for a moment consider that they may do a close up of your Johnson. And also, not only would it be a super cut tight shot, but that they would be put makeup of so you would look like you have herpes or whatever, right? You were like, it was pretty embarrassing, unless you're like super confident in, and a 99% of men cannot be. I'm sorry, they're just not, you know. Um, Maybe that's too high a number, but you know
Yeah,
what I'm saying, right?
sure.
So, and so
Let's
sort
just
of
say
like,
99%.
let's see. And so, it was like, um, he was basically like, I thought, owned up to it. Like, yeah, you're right. We should have had a more nuanced conversation about expectations and well ahead of time, obviously. So if there's something was uncomfortable, you'd have time to figure it out, and you just didn't. And so you felt pressured under those circumstances, rightfully so, and agreed to do it and wasn't happy about it, obviously, and kind of carried a grudge around a bit for some time. But it seemed like in the episode you invited him in, so there's one sort of, you'd think as a listener, okay, you're giving him the benefit of the doubt because you're inviting him onto your show, right? So there's
Yeah.
that. And then he really does explain and apologize and express what seems like genuine remorse. And not that you give him a hard time, but it seems like you're still withholding. It's like that's what,
Yeah.
like you're withholding, like he's genuinely wants to be closer or have at least a more authentic relationship with you, whatever that looks like. And it seems like, okay, you're kind of like still, a little sort of distant. There's a distance that comes out of it a little bit still. I know it was subtle, but it was there.
Yeah, that's a pretty good observation. Yeah, I think my decision to be so sort of immediately forgiving or sort of buffer everything with like, look, I'm not saying you're a bad person. This isn't a gotcha thing. All that was genuine, but yeah, if it was a deeper relationship, I think I would have sort of just let it rip a little bit more, like my real feelings, which are, not drastically different than the ones that I share, but if you have a more intimate relationship with someone, I think you can just sort of let it all air out, and um, you can air it all out and bring up things that are more uncomfortable. Whereas Peter, I think I just sort of kept it moving and didn't really get into the weeds and the super nuanced feelings because we don't have that kind of relationship. So in a way, it doesn't feel worth it. It might have been worth it for the listener. I was sort of in a place when I recorded that of being like nice, which I don't know. It depends on my mood. And I think now I would just be a little bit more straight ahead and not like it needs to be more confrontational, but a little bit more. I think if I had just been a little bit more myself instead of trying to play diplomat, which is very, it's not a great impulse for a podcaster to not lean into the confrontation more. But in the Betsy episode, which precedes it, we do have a more intimate relationship. We had a sort of romantic thing, and we have an important working relationship, and I think we both mean something to each other. So in that conversation, you see both of us just bring up whatever we want and sort of just go straight ahead into wherever the conversation takes us. And a lot of that is stuff that is hard for me to hear, but I need to hear it. So when you have like a deeper friendship or a deeper relationship with someone, and an impulse or a need to like maintain that relationship in an honest way, I think you're more just balls to the wall in terms of let's talk about it all. Whereas Peter, it's like, we do our separate thing. We're on separate tracks. I don't want to like condemn him. So just kind of the conversation was what it would be like probably if we were just at a coffee shop where I'm like, I don't know this guy. I know him, but I don't like I don't deeply know him. So yeah, that's a scary it's scary how acute that perception was on your end.
Oh, well, it's, it's all there though, and you kind of learn more about you and your relationship with Peter, but just because I'm also hearing these other conversations with, with both Betsy and Ruby, the Ruby is your sister. Then you can kind of think about, oh, apply this information to the other relationships. It's like your building blocks here. The more
Yeah.
it's strange because these are, I don't do a podcast like that where, although there have been moments for sure where I people we have connect really unexpected connections or it gets deeper, but I don't bring on people I know well. I don't bring on like close relationships and then air the tensions or past misgivings and that kind of thing. And it's confessional. And I'm just wondering, clearly this is how you went into it, but like there's always that question is like, well, you're doing it in a public way. How
Yeah.
much of this, so how does that affect, how does that impact, the transparency, the honest, and it seems like you guys are getting incredibly close though, if you're not actually achieving it, and maybe just as a social or societal thing, we're now at a point where we are being able to do that. You're pushing it as much as anybody else, even in these 3 episodes. You're pushing. That's why I was really interested in talking to you, because I don't haven't seen that with a host who actually has intimate relationships with his guests.
Yeah.
Like I've seen it where the host has, where you have like some therapist with a couple on that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's
Is that going to be the case in the other episodes? Because eventually you're going to run out of ice, right?
yes, yes, of course. And there's some relationships that are too precarious even to do it right now. But
Right.
no, it's not every episode. Every episode gets pretty intimate and personal, but there's a few people who I didn't know before doing it. Laura Albert, JT Leroy, you know, I didn't really know her, but we have a lot in common, and strangely. Um, and so there's a few people like that, but then there's some more where I have deep, messy relationships. Kaveh Zahedi, of course. Um, this person
Yeah.
named Lily Lady, who's a filmmaker. We had a thing. Does it affect the honesty of the conversations? In certain cases, I suppose, like with my sister, there's stuff that I know is just better to keep out of the conversation, but it affects relationships. Definitely. There's no clean way to do it. Like I've just realized there's no way to outsmart the potential negative reactions from people who are talked about in your work or who are involved in it. Even if you make autobiographical work, it comes back and bites you in the ass. Like, and I thought like really some of these first 3 episodes, especially, my sister, I was like, this is a gesture of love. This is the best way I can communicate my respect and compassion for you in a way. And some people don't care about how you package your love through art. Like they really don't care because that's not how they receive love. That's not how they give love. There's a diminishment of the gesture of love because it is public. So it's like, which I understand.
Well,
Like if I got you like, it's like, hey, I made you a painting. It's just for you, but it's also for everyone else. It's like,
yeah,
oh,
but if you right, but yeah, if you're both considering putting this the conversation, or rather that this conversation, that the podcast episode is art in itself, and
mm-hmm.
that's legitimate, or the
Yeah,
collection of conversations, the what your goals are, what you're trying to achieve, that is definitely legit to say that's art. And if you're both recognizing that, then it's authentic, right? Because you're both saying, okay, we are not having this together alone in our kitchen. but we can still be honest, even though we both know that this is public and that that's hanging over us during the conversation, right? That's affecting, impacting us. But it doesn't, I think at some point, if you look at a lot of interview shows that do that kind of thing, it comes off so edited and phony. But what you're doing isn't, you know, but it doesn't mean it's not flawed or missing something, that's like something that could be the case, but maybe it's not. Maybe you're both like saying, this is a way we're going to communicate, and we're doing it also because we're both artists and we believe that this is art. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. It depends. I mean, different kind of artists are different. Like my sister's an incredible musician, but
Right. Yeah.
there's an anonymity, I guess, to what she does that I wasn't really considering. And sometimes it does feel so, especially because it takes so long for me to do anything. Like I have mountains of footage of documentary stuff that my family has been a part of throughout the years, but it's like, well, when does it get done? Eventually it gets done, but it can take half a decade or a decade. And so this podcast, I think there was a level of just hanging out with my sister on mic where, I mean, it was clear what my intention was. I never lied. Like this is part of a podcast. And I continued to clear things with her, like as it got closer to the date. But
That's the theme, right? I mean, clearing the air, right? Isn't it? I mean, so far in the first three, again, you're bringing a cave, so I don't know what your history is with cave, but
it's a little rocky. Yeah.
well, yeah,
That's his relationship
yeah.
with everyone, right?
What?
It's his
With everyone?
with everyone, right?
I, you know, I could see that for sure. Yeah. My relationship, I haven't talked to him in a little while, but my relationship with him was not that complicated, but I never tried to be close to him.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
didn't make a film with him per se. I was in a couple of things with that. I was involved in some creative things with him, but
I know. I edited your face once because I was editing like the first episode of the show about the show.
oh, right.
I remember
Okay.
you in some of the footage.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, yeah, that's a rocky one. He was my teacher in college, and then
Oh, okay. I didn't know. Hmm.
we started working together, and he was my mentor, and I looked up to him, and then our working relationship quickly became so toxic and insane, and we have yelled at each other a lot. Um, we've hurt each other. I mean, because of the mentor mentee relationship, there's no way I've hurt him more than he's hurt me because the mentor kind of has like the power in those relationships. Although I think I did hurt him for a while because I decided like I'm just not talking to this guy for a long time. Like I'm not gonna like speak to him. And then he started to realize that like I would avoid him at a party or I would leave if I knew he was coming. And then he like confronted me at a party and was just like, Jack, are you not talking to me? And I was like, well, and he was like, it was kind of hurtful when I realized you left the room before I came in. And I was like, well, you know what?
Pretty good impression.
I was like, I still hold a lot of, he's like, and I was like, well, when you said, when you insulted my, this and that, and he goes, oh, okay. Okay. I see. Which is his version of sorry. If there is a version of sorry for him, is just,
Right. Yeah.
And then at the end of the night, we hugged and he was like collapsed in my arms. He was like, thank you, Jack. And we had this good hug. And I was like, oh, okay. Like I could feel him, the gratitude for me, like releasing this grudge. So I was like, okay, Kave's good. But I almost wish we had just ended it there instead
Right.
of like now he's like, okay, Jack's back in my life. All right, it's back to normal.
Yeah. Well, it's like, okay, fix that, moving on.
Yeah, and I also think he thought he was dying for or something because a lot of people were getting like, yeah, Kave is talking to me like as if he's dying and he wants to like set relationships right. So I did pick him up from the hospital once, but I think he's okay. So our relationship is fine. He agrees to do these interviews, and I do his interviews, and we really only see each other when we're working on stuff. But one similarity is that our work there's not really a delineation between our lives and our work. I mean, for him, there really is no delineation. For me, I thought there was more of one, but it goes back to this thing of like, look, I'm trying to promote you and my work and celebrate your life and my love for you in this art object. Here it is. It's like a present you leave on someone's door, and then they open it and they're like, "Fuck that!" And then they stomp it like when you put like a flaming bag of doo doo on someone's lawn, and then they
Yeah. Right.
and so like that in my life is where it's hard to make people understand or care that like this expression that I've made this gesture through art is real. For me, this is real. There's no difference between this and like talking to you privately and bearing my soul.
Well, it's getting back to what I was trying to get at. Yeah.
Yeah. But for some people, that's not the same thing. Like they don't care.
Right. So therefore, that's a right. And if you're that, therefore, it doesn't work because on some level, right? Because it has to be both people have to believe this is art. Otherwise, it's there's something superficial about it.
Yeah, which is a shame because for me, it's so real. And if for them it's not, then that's just a sadness. But I don't want to be like, okay, well, I'll never meet you where you are either. Like I'll have all the private conversations you want, and that's going to be the majority of our relationship. We're not like doing talk shows with each other now forever, but
Mhm.
um, yeah. So
Well,
it's
you one thing comes across, and that is that you are, um, yeah, you're really trying to be honest as you can be, and it doesn't. I don't know. I'm buying into it
yeah,
because I don't know you, and for all I know, you could be holding on to some all this information, and I don't know. Maybe but you're asking point blank questions to your guests who know you really well, and you figure some of the shit would come out. So I'm like intrigued because I want to keep going, because I'm
yeah.
going to learn more and more about you, and you're so willing to, in a very non-exploitative way, be honest, about yourself. It's not too common a thing.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I'm trying.
Yeah. Do you feel, how many have you done? I know three have dropped, but how many?
They're all the interviews are done,
Oh, okay.
unless I decide to add a few more. But yeah,
Right.
the interviews are done.
So do you feel, well, how do you feel on the other side of that first season? About yourself, about what you've accomplished.
Yeah, I mean, it's still not done. Like the intros and the outros aren't done. And so I have to just do those weekly. And I made that decision because it's like I can't bank the intro. Like I need to respond to what's going on in the week. And I like that I'm gonna have this little microscopic platform when we find out who might be our next president. Um,
Mm.
and so I like reacting to things in real time, and my feelings about the conversations may change in real time. So the interviews are done, but the intros and outros aren't. So um, I can't do a victory lap like it's all over because it's still very much a thing that I'm doing kind of every week and every day.
Mm.
I don't know. I don't know how to feel. When the first three dropped, I was like, I mean, the first thing I got was a text letting me know that someone wasn't happy with one of the episodes, and then so I was just depressed. I
Yeah.
was depressed, and so
Somebody was in the episode,
yeah,
or somebody heard it.
someone who's in the episode.
Okay.
But so I was just depressed, and then this feeling like when you sit on a project for so long, because I've been working on this for years and years, and it's ridiculous to work on a podcast for that long. But you build up this fantasy of how it's going to be received, and then the fantasy just becomes reality because you've been living with it for so long. But then like you reach that moment where it's like, oh no, it's out, and it didn't go viral. It's not some sort of like cultural conversation. Like you build up all these ideas of what it could be, and then it's just like, yeah, a few people liked the story, and then slowly you get messages like it seems like it's resonating, and that's nice. But I'm very conflicted about having it out there. It's very vulnerable, and I mean, not like I didn't choose to do this. I'm not saying poor me. But um, yeah, it's really gratifying when people say that it resonates with them, but it's also sort of nerve wracking because you don't know how many relationships are going to get bruised throughout, which is not my intention.
Well, fortunately, in your case, they're all bruised already. So
that's
what do you got to lose?
that's
I mean,
right.
they were there for it. They know what they said, right? Unless they said don't include that.
Yeah, some people feel differently when it's out. I mean, I haven't heard from a few people that were on it either. I can't be
Three
that big.
episodes.
There's only three, right? Yeah. So I did find out that my aunt on my dad's side is never going to talk to me again because she found out about the film I made that was at Sundance, Bob's Funeral, which I know it doesn't talk about her family, which is also my family in a very negative light, but I haven't talked to her in 10 years. So it was funny for her to get word
What a
that,
brave stance, right?
yeah, you're never talking. It's like, okay, we can just continue never talking to each other again. She lives in the woods in the middle of nowhere. I won't be running into her.
Uh, well, what about there must have been also plenty of more receptive responses, also positive feedback, right?
Yeah. I mean, not necessarily from someone who is like involved in the episodes or has an episode just
Yeah,
about,
yeah. So
yeah, but yeah, the responses have been good, the ones I have gotten. Even if I'm just entertaining people, like even if this just makes your morning bowel movement go by a little smoother,
mhm.
that's good.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
um, but yeah. I mean, but those are that's who you're making it for, the podcast
It's a good
and the
question.
art.
Everyone
Yeah,
who is interested, everyone who it might help, everyone. I have no interest in like making work in a vacuum, even though, of course, what I do is by definition a bit niche.
hmm
Um, but hey, man, if dogs could understand what I'm saying, that would be great.
um, yeah, I really I think it works on an entertainment level too. I zip around and I'm driving to for like I got a 40-minute drive, and it's a kind of it's a really good companion.
Good.
100% focused. It's nice.
Oh, thanks. Yeah,
Yeah,
good.
yeah. So and can you talk about some of your other guests maybe who are coming up?
Sure. Well, I
Kaveh,
don't,
you mentioned.
what's that?
You mentioned Kaveh.
Cave, of course. I don't know when this drops, but episode 4 will be Dana Keys, who's the host of the Radio Rehab podcast, a podcast about recovery. She in the episode, I'm in our conversation. I'm about to go to rehab. I'm like 2 days before going to rehab for the second time, and I need tips. And I saw her as like a sobriety goddess because she just was able to talk about sobriety in this way that made it seem cool and kind of rock and roll, and because she had that great raspy voice.
Right.
And she unfortunately relapsed
Oh boy.
after the episode and she died. She passed away.
Oh no.
So this episode is a big deal for me to release because I want to pay tribute to her life
Yeah.
and
Oh,
show
I'm
how
sorry to
great
hear that. That's horrible.
it does suck. Yeah. But I'm really grateful to have this conversation. But I realized because I've been procrastinating, and part of that's just because I'm a chronic procrastinator. I mean, I just turned this episode in, and goes up tomorrow morning. But I also realized I didn't want to like release it in a way because it's like I'm releasing her from my life. Like this is the last interactive thing I have with her memory.
Right. I understand.
So, but it has to be free. It has to be up for everyone. And yeah. So Dana, so that's an intense episode that will be up. I think it's funny too, though. Um, she talks about the importance of a sober laugh, which is true. Because she's like, you don't get that when you're messed up. And it's true. When I think about when I was drinking and doing pills and drugs and stuff, it's like I don't remember a lot of hearty laughs. If you're high on pot, maybe
Right.
there's something there, but it actually I would say even that's not as beautiful as a sober laugh.
hmm
Then, as I said, Laura Albert, JT Leroy, her
Yeah.
alias, people probably know her. Some people do.
I think it's possible that I also had them on years ago.
Yeah.
Is how sad is it that you can't remember? There are a lot of guests I can't remember it. It's been so many years now.
Well, you've had so many.
Yeah, so many. It's kind of what I do is very, very different than what you do. Of course,
Yeah.
I mean, what I'm doing is completely. it's a whole different type of thing.
Yeah, and you're great at it.
Not thank you, but it's got taken a while. Boy, I was just doing the like Q&As at Woodstock Film, and I lost my mom recently, and I just
I'm
find
sorry.
like thank you. I just find like my like during the Q like just doing intros and Q&As, which normally are just sort of you know I don't know, just not that I'm not present. I'm present when I do it, and I have a connective type of approach to it. But at the same time, I don't, I'm, there's a whole other thing happening when I'm doing it because I'm operating in a more just raw place on some level.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Just they were kind of people kind of came up to me at times afterwards and talked about my style, which I never happened before.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Did you talk about your mom on stage or just where you're
No,
going?
no, no, no,
No.
no, 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 no.
Yeah.
I don't mean like I was being confessional. I was just like saying, like it's really amazing how you people are come out for these films, and it's such an incredible just expression of a community and of that kind and support to filmmakers and things along those lines. But it's from the heart, you know what I mean? I'm like, whereas I used to, I think, just sort of do it for try to get a few laughs, which I still try to do, but you know
It's
now
true. It
there's
can be
also more
emotional.
art there. What?
Yeah, the film festivals can make you emotional when you see all those people come out. That would have been hilarious if you had just sabotaged someone's lighthearted comedy by going up there and talking about your deceased mother.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly. Right. Um, that's there were some really good films, but anyway, I digress. I didn't mean to. But I've had some cases where people get really emotional on my podcast, and it's great. Or in a Q, if I'm doing a Q&A, I was doing one recently with maybe like with Griffin Dunn, and
Oh yeah.
we did a thing at a theater together, and this book is all about loss, his memoir. He's had a lot of loss, and he gets constantly would get choked up.
Yeah.
And it was really kind of not, like, oh, I got it. It's not like for me, like, oh, it's a gotcha moment, or but it was more just like, okay, it's me. It's just sort of more being having moments and that are real, and but that's kind of, and I value those moments a lot. I really appreciate them, but that's about as much as I do on my end. You're, I don't know. Have you gotten overwhelmed in the conversations yet? Have there's been any instances where you felt like um, you were, caught off guard even by your own what was happening in those conversations?
Yeah. Have I ever been caught off guard? Yeah, I mean the Betsy one, yeah. And then trying to think if there's any other ones that really I guess I'm when I'm in the throes of stuff in a sort of artistic setting, I'm really sort of operating in on the emotional real way, and then I'm operating as the filmmaker or the podcast host
Right.
guy. So
Hmm.
there's two things happening at once. So I don't often
Right.
get overwhelmed. And when you were just saying about seeing people emote and cry on stage, and you're not like, oh, got it, I got the moment. I'm like that a little bit. I mean, I don't think there's a horrible amount of shame in it. But it's not that doesn't override the emotional connection that's going on. It's just like two things can be true at once.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And I mean, so yeah, I have to keep myself from self-hating too much. I try to remember that. Yeah.
I mean, is there a desire to use these to? I mean, so far again, with the three that I listened to, it's about repairing relationships, or at least doing some of the work in the process of repairing. Getting to repairing.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if you're after the episodes, probably not with Peter is my guess, but maybe
Yeah.
with Betsy and your sister in particular. Is this now an opportunity now to continue doing the work to kind of improve those relationships? Because certainly with Betsy, I mean, it seems like you really want to have a friendship with her.
Yeah, and Betsy and I, we've acted in a few things since then, and I just interviewed her for my Never Ending movie, which she's a part of.
Mm-hmm.
Just I wanted to do sort of the final
Oh,
interviews with
for
people. Yeah, it was called
the
Pervert for a long
commentary or
time.
something.
No, I interviewed her recently because for a movie
Oh,
for a movie I've been working on for like 8 years because she was a part of that, and that's where a
right,
lot
right,
of
right. Yeah, yeah.
bad stuff happened on. And so we talked and we went over some of this stuff again, and it was extra grueling because I don't know, it just was harder to hear it. Even for like this last time I heard it for the movie was like the third time. The second time would have been what you heard, where she tells me some of like how I hurt her.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we probably want to stop harping on that, but it
Right.
does make
Yeah,
for meaningful discussion. And she is someone who puts art first, but I also think that she puts her life. It's maybe there's two. She puts her life and art in uh
parts. Yeah,
yeah, they're equally important, and she I know is delicate about, or she wants to be cautious about when she's in like new relationships talking about all this stuff. So I haven't heard from her about this one, but I hope that our relationship is, I mean, I really wanted it to be healing, like again, in your fantasy version of how everything works out, you get the text like, Jack, that was the most beautiful conversation. You edited it so well. I'm so glad this is out there,
yeah,
and then, oh, that text was just lived in my mind for like the
right.
2 years I've been making this. So,
Yeah,
um, but yeah, I always wanted to improve the relationship. I think the Kaveh conversations are improved, or my relationship with Kaveh is somewhat improved based on our many conversations, some of which you will hear in my episode with him, just because I can accept who he is, and he is exactly who he is without apology.
sure.
I'm who I am with
You
plenty of
have to
apology.
go. I was just gonna say, you kind of, you have to, if you're gonna have a relationship with somebody, you gotta accept them for who they are, or you don't be in a relationship with them.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I kind of just was like, I don't know why I had this in me. Like I just wanted to challenge him about his work because it hurt so many people. But now I'm sort of seeing that there might have been a projection there because my work apparently hurts people too.
Hmm.
But I do feel like I care more about other people's feelings, and so I don't know, I wanted to get at it, like, why aren't you more like me or something.
Hmm.
It was kind of like that Thanksgiving. You're like, I'm going to get grandma this Thanksgiving. I'm going to get her to change her views on black people. And it just doesn't happen. If you have the racist grandma, you have the racist grandma. And Kaveh isn't racist. I don't mean it,
No, I understand the point.
like he just, his views are fixed. And so it gets kind of heated when we're going back and forth and I'm trying to like corner him on certain things. And he's just
Mhm.
like, yeah, I'm cruel. Uh, I don't care how people think or what they think of it. And I'm just like, okay. So it's good, like in a way, like the argument's kind of over.
Hmm.
It's like, oh,
Right.
you know
And
exactly
he
what
wasn't
you're
there.
doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Mm.
yeah, I think it improves relationships, and in some certain cases, it might strain them more. But my goal with the show is to improve relationships and let other people have their say, and yeah, just try to heal. But it's the opposite of healing for some people to be roped into this kind of stuff. So I don't know. I'm very conflicted about it all.
Mm. Mm. Right. Right. Well, you'll know. You'll find out.
Yeah.
Um, which is, in part, I guess, partly the point of doing it. Because if you knew exactly how everything was going to turn out, why do it? Um, it's called Revelations, and it's hosted by Jack Dunphy, filmmaker, animator, actor,
Yeah.
host. uh, I mean, this is as good as any place as any other place to end it. I don't know. Unless do we cover it, or how do you feel?
Yeah, good. That's the show. It's on Apple
On
Podcast.
Spotify, Apple.
My short film Bob's Funeral will be premiering on Mubi on December 1st.
Sweet. On November 1st.
Oh, no, December 1st. Sorry, December 1st. Bob's
Are they
Funeral.
still doing the rotating thing?
What's the rotating thing?
Movie used to do this, like where they would have 30 films on any time, and like the oldest one would um, fall off the would like would come off after the 30th day, and then a new one would take it to would be added, and they would just keep it going a month. Each film would be on for a month, and it would drop off. The oldest one, and they did that for I don't know how long.
I don't know anything about Mubi. I made a real fool
Oh,
of myself when they had the meeting with
but
me.
oh
I was like, they were talked about putting my thing on their platform, and they were like, okay, do you have any questions? And I was like, yeah, what is Mubi?
oh my goodness.
Like, what do you? Is it like streaming? I don't know what. And then I saw the substance and the big Mubi, like the production title, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Um, so I don't know
Yeah,
if it's a
they're
rotating.
great. They're pretty great. I mean, they became more of a distribution company, so instead of just a streaming platform.
Yeah, they seem. I mean, yeah, I'm excited to be on there. It's exclusive for a year, and then it's non-exclusive for a year. So the contract's for 2 years, but I guess they could change their mind or something.
Hmm.
I don't know.
I'll look for it. I can't wait. It's a short, you said, or is it?
Short, Bob's funeral. It's just at Woodstock.
Oh my God.
It's okay.
Why didn't I go? Why didn't I do? You should have come and
I wanted to go. Yeah. These fests don't pay, though. That's the
no,
problem.
I know, especially shorts. They just do like, 20 blocks of shorts because it's a great, way to collect fees and to, and legitimately also to build a community of filmmakers. So, a lot of them will make features and, maybe they'll make Woodstock their, be somewhat loyal to Woodstock. I don't know.
I wish I was there. I mean, I feel like I'm missing a moments in my life by just not going to these festivals. Um,
There'll be more.
there'll be more. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. You'll come next time. And it's over now, so
Yeah. How did this stack up against the Werner Herzog episode? Were you
much
just
better.
as starstruck?
Well, you didn't correct me, like, no, no, you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. You didn't watch it closely.
Did he say that?
Well, not in so many words, but yeah,
Yeah.
like I was said, I decided, it was mostly to talk about a particular documentary he had made, which was kind of like for me a bore compared to this body of work.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
yeah, and so we had, he wasn't rushing me off, so I said, "Do you mind if I ask a couple of questions?" So, there's the movie about the Grizzly Man, and I just arbitrarily I mean I brought up a few other things throughout, but when it came to Grizzly Man, I was just remembering him in my memory, because I hadn't seen it in a long time. I had said to him, "There's that moment where you're like we're watching you with the headphones on," and he goes, and you're listening to her partner being killed by the grizzly bear. And you go, no, that's not what, and it's just like, what a nightmare, you're being corrected. But on the other hand, it's incredibly entertaining. So I put that out as a kind of a promotional clip.
Yeah. That's great. I mean, conflict's great.
Yeah, of course. Right. And
That is what it is. What is it if not that? I've seen that movie many times.
I think it was like, I'm trying to remember now, but it was like, it was just, I had the perspective wrong. Like he was listening to it, but we were looking at her looking at it or something like that. Like,
Oh,
it's
right, right. He's listening
so,
to it. And he's,
but
you
we're
must.
looking at her face, and then he goes, "Never listen to this." No, and
Yes,
that was
yes, that's what it
beautiful. I
was.
mean, it's just a fantastic moment.
Have you
Uh,
heard it? Have you heard the real audio? It's out there.
oh no, I don't think I have. Oh my God.
You don't need to.
Yeah,
It's
no, I
like
don't.
Terrifier 3. We saw that. My girlfriend and I saw that last night. We were like, we didn't need to see this.
Which one?
Terrifier 3. You're not into the Terrifier films?
I don't know it. I mean, it's a gap.
It's the It's the biggest movie in the country right now. These horror movies, Terrifier. I can yell at you about not knowing Terror, and then you can use this as a clip.
Yeah, you should do
Biggest movie in the country.
exactly. I got to get on it. I get apparently. Well, the difference being now is like when I was for many years, I was just so on top of of everything, and I'm now like working full time. I work full time, and I just have such so much less time, and I'm in a relationship. Like I'm living with some.
Congrats.
Yeah, like I'm living with some. It's like she wants time together.
Frauds.
as I as I do. I mean, so like anyway, so podcasting, like the way I do it anyway, is taking a little. I have to like try to now make time for it, and it's. But I'm in, I go up and down in terms of how excited I am about it. Um, just have to be. I have to be more intentional about it, because then it just becomes, like just a conveyor belt of shit. It's just not that exciting. But but not every guest is like Werner Herzog. Um, but I am talking to Harris Yulin tomorrow. That should be good.
Who's that?
He's like an actor from the '70s.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, he's. It's just there's a distributor having a theatrical this movie. I had no idea it existed, which is bizarre because it has this incredible cast of a lot of musicians, and like I just never knew it existed. It was really well, Candy Mountain. Have you ever heard of it or seen it?
No.
Tom Waits is in it, and like Dr. John, all these really amazing people are in it. Um, David Johansen, Joe Strummer. I mean,
All
they all
right.
have small parts, but it's still it's like wow, I didn't know this movie existed.
Huh.
It was made in the '70s. No, what am I saying? It was made in the '80s, but still, it was like really like low budget and downtown type of film. Really cool.
Yeah.
Mm. All right,
All right.
thank you. That was great.
Thank you.
Looking
And
forward to
I love all your George Jones covers. I've been watching throughout the years.
my George Jones
Really.
covers. Do I do more than one?
Well, I said I guess I just mean all your covers of country songs, but George
Oh,
Jones sticks out.
thanks. Thank you for that. Yeah, I haven't been doing that as much either, have I? That was really more of a COVID thing.
Yeah.
I was when I moved up here, I was kind of like on my own, living in a like off in the country, like by myself, not much company. You know, I really kind of was. I don't know if I was lonely, but
Well, you were getting out of your marriage, right?
that was way no, that was a while before that.
Oh, okay.
No, I was out of my marriage.
Yeah.
Um, it's been a long time.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
It's weird how much you know about people without really knowing them just from Instagram.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, yeah. Well, there was that. Well, no, we're friends, and probably know like she's out in Hollywood, so
Yeah.
it's kind of a crazy thing. Only I'd hung on.
To what? Her?
I wouldn't have to waste my time doing this bullshit. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly.
Uh, I love it. I'll talk to you. Let's please stay in touch.
Yeah, for sure. That'd be great.
I like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'll put something together. I'll put it out there, and hopefully, if a few more people find out about it. Are you doing other podcasts too? Are you doing Nick getting on others?
Trying to. I asked my manager if he knows any podcasts he could get me on, and he's like, "Yeah." Never heard anything from him.
Oh, your manager. Well, if it's not going to make him money, why was he? Well, he's not.
Right. No, I'm doing Peter Rinaldi's back to one. I'm supposed to.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. But yeah,
Yeah,
doing
give
the
him my
thing.
best.
Yeah, well.
All right.
All right. Thanks, man.
Anytime. I'm happy. I was happy to do it. I was really pleased that you guys reached out.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thanks, man.
You got it. Have a good
Bye.
night.
You
Bye-bye.
too.
Thanks.